The book of Judges, session 11. We continue with chapter 3. So in verse 8, we learned that therefore the anger of Yahweh was hot against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of Cushan Rishatahim, which means wickedness and danger and blackness and destruction. And he reigned over them for 8 years. Verse 9, so when the children of Israel cried unto Yahuwah, Yahweh raised up, listen to these key words now, he raised up a deliverer to the children of Israel, who delivered them. And the Spirit of Yahuwah was on this deliverer. He judged Israel, and he went out to make war. Can you hear these key words? All pertains to Messiah Yashua. Yahuwah raised up Messiah Yashua, Messiah Yashua, to deliver us. He is our deliverer, our redeemer. He is the one that came to die for the sins of Israel. He's the one that came only for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Yahuwah raised up a deliverer to the children of Israel, who delivered them. And the Spirit of Yahuwah came upon him, because the Spirit of Yahuwah was upon Yeshua, to declare freedom to those in prison and sight to those who are blind. We saw this in the prophet Isaiah, chapter 61. And Yeshua, when he read the Torah in the synagogue, he read exactly these same verses. And he judged Israel. Yeshua is the judge, that when he comes back, he will judge all the world. But he's also a judge for Israel, to teach them right and wrong. And he went out to war. That is Yeshua. He's the one that goes out to war. He's the one with a two-edged sword on the right, that is the commander of the army of God's hosts. He's Yahuwah Tsefaot, the leader of the heavenly army. And Yahuwah delivered Cushan Rishatahim, king of Mesopotamia, in his hand. God will deliver the ruler of wickedness, the Antichrist, Satan, the serpent, into the hand of Yeshua, and Yeshua will destroy him. And then the land had rest for 40 years. 40 years is the Messianic number. 40, 400, 4,000. For 40 years, just like in the time of David, who reigned and ruled for 40 years, just like it rained for 40 days, just like Yeshua was in the desert for 40 days, just like Israel went through the wilderness for 40 years. All of these Messianic figures all shows to Yeshua. But now this guy's name is not Yeshua. Verse 9, when they turned to Yahuwah, you are raised up a deliverer to the children of Israel, who delivered them, even Othni-El, the son of Kenaz, the younger brother of Caleb. So Othni-El, this nephew of Caleb, he's the one that's raised up. And about him it is said that God raised him up. He's a deliverer. The Spirit of Yahuwah was upon him. He judged Israel. He went out to war, and there was 40 years rest. So he's a beautiful Messianic shadow picture for us. And his name, Othni-El. Othni means mighty. It means strong. It means mighty and strong like a lion. So Othni-El is strong as a lion. The one that is as strong as a lion, the one that is of El, Othni-El. And he is also the one that got married to this beautiful woman that we learned about in the book of Joshua. Azar, the daughter of Joshua. So Othni-El, son of Kenaz, the brother of Caleb. So remember, Caleb was from the tribe of Judah. So both Caleb and Kenaz, you'll remember, they weren't originally born, from the tribe of Judah or born a Hebrew. They were actually Kenazites. So they came in, the lost sheep of the house of Israel. The pagans, the Gentiles that joined themselves to Yahuwah can be absorbed into Israel. So not only was Caleb absorbed into Israel, he was made the leader of the tribe of Judah. So Othni-El was the small nephew of Caleb, and he also got to be the son-in-law of Caleb, the daughter of Caleb. And you remember when we discussed the book of Joshua, we went into detail in this beautiful shadow picture of the Son of God, who is betrothed to the daughters, the daughter of Judah, because he was willing to fight the enemy for her to win her as wife. How that's a beautiful messianic picture. So we're not going to repeat that again. We are looking at how there is a different spirit. Remember, we looked at both Joshua and Caleb, who had a different spirit inside of them. And God said, everybody else, doesn't believe me and doesn't trust me and doesn't obey me. But there's a different spirit in Caleb. And it's almost like this same spirit that is different also came upon Othni-El in verse 10. And that's why God raised him up like Yashua was resurrected. Because he is a judge and he is a leader, a spiritual, because he is a judge and he is a leader, a spiritual and a physical leader for God's people, Israel. And not only did he rule and reign for 40 years and there was peace, just like when Yashua is going to rule and reign upon this earth, there will be peace. Just like when Solomon, after the time of David, who ruled and reigned for 40 years, Solomon's whole reign, his whole kingdom, there was peace. All of these are messianic pictures. So this different spirit also came upon Othni-El. So the one that is as strong as a lion of El from the tribe of Judah was raised up to destroy blackness and wickedness. Othni-El was raised up to destroy Cushan, Rishathaim. Just beautiful. But, unfortunately, we get to verse 12, and the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of Yahweh. And Yahweh strengthened Eglon, sight of Yahweh. So, Eglon, the king of Eglon, gathered unto him the children of Ammon and Amalek. You remember the Amalekites. And he went and smote Israel, and he possessed the city of palm trees. He took one of our most precious inheritances. He took possession of it. He took it away from us. Because we obeyed, the evilness inside of us, the Cushan Rishathaim king that's inside of each one of us, we obeyed them, this spirit, instead of obeying God. So God allowed the king of Eglon to possess the city of palm trees. So the children of Israel served Eglon, the king of Moab, for 18 years. All these names, we've looked at Eglon before. Let's go to Joshua 10. Remember, all these names has meanings, and it's got repeating lessons over and over and over again. Joshua 10 verse 37. So then Joshua went up and all of Israel with him from Eglon to, I've got a different translation here now. Let me just check the easier version. And so Joshua went up and they smote with the edge of the sword the king of Hebron. And they took it and they smote it with the edge of the sword and the kings thereof and all the cities and all the souls that were in them, so that there's nobody that remained, according to all that he had done to Eglon. But he destroyed it utterly and all the souls that were therein. So a new king arose in Eglon after Joshua had a battle against Eglon. And again, because the sons of Israel after Joshua didn't complete the destruction of Israel after Joshua, didn't complete the destruction of the Canaanites, a new king arose, Eglon, this king. Although the city of Eglon was destroyed, a man with the name of Eglon stood up and was raised up. And he came back with a vengeance. The name of Eglon has a little bit of a sexual meaning. It's like a young calf or a young bull that is just coming into maturity. So, the young bulls and calves and stuff, that the male calves and the male bulls that comes into maturity, they're always sniffing the air, trying to sniff out which female animal is on heat. So it's this man has got a disgusting kind of character. So we're going to be reading about Ehud and Echlon. You can actually go for yourself and read the next chapter. It's quite disgusting, this Echlon character. It's quite disgusting. But it's good for us to understand this small part, how Othni-El, if only the children of Israel remained in the teaching of Joshua and Caleb. And after they fell from that, and Othni-El came to rescue them again, and if only they stayed with the teachings of Othni-El to serve Yahweh with one consent, they would never have fallen into the hands of this disgusting man, Echlon. So when they fell into the hands of Echlon, Yahweh raised up another judge. You know, Yahweh has amazing patience. His loving kindness and his mercy endures forever. You know, time after time after time, he keeps on raising up judges, leaders, deliverers for the children of Israel. But yet Israel never remains completely loyal to Yahweh. It's so difficult to understand, but you know, we see it in our own lives. We see how people really return to God over the last 2 years, really thinking that, you know, the end of the world is approaching and the mark of the beast is here, and people really started turning back to the Bible. But now that things seem to have returned to normal, you know, people are getting cold feet again and they're returning to their normal lives, and so quickly do they forget how they pleaded with God to save them because they believed this is the end of days. But these patterns we see not only in this modern days in our own lives, but you know, we see it all through scripture. And it's just these repeating cycles, these completely rounded wheels of lessons that comes around again, and again and again. Nehemiah 9, you know, read the whole chapter. It's beautiful. Verse 6, thou, even thou art Yahuwah alone. Thou hast made heaven, the heaven of heavens, with all their host, the earth and all that's in it, the seas and all that is in the seas. You've preserved them, and the host of heavens worships thee. Thou art Yahuwah, our Elohim, who chose Abraham and brought him forth out of Ur of the Chaldeans, and gave him the name of Abraham, father of many nations, and found his heart faithful before thee, and made a covenant with him to give him the land, the promised land. And thou didst see the afflictions of our fathers in Egypt. You heard their cry, not only in the book of Judges, crying in every chapter, please come and save us, but you heard their cry in Egypt. All the people of the land, you did proudly against the people of Egypt, and you brought out your people. You divided the Red Sea before them so that they went through, and as Paul says, they got baptized in the Red Sea. You saw their persecutors, and you threw them into the deep sea as a stone in mighty waters. Moreover, you led them in the day by a cloud, and in the night by fire, to give them light in the way wherein they should go. They came down also upon Mount Sinai. You spoke with them from heaven, and gave them right rulings and judgments and good commandments, and made unto them to keep your holy Sabbath day as you commanded by the hand of Moses, and gave them bread from heaven for their hunger, brought forth for them water out of the rock for their thirst. You promised them that they should go in to possess the promised land, but they and our fathers dealt proudly. And they hardened their necks, they stood their necks and hearkened not to your Torah. They refused to obey, neither were they mindful of the wonders that you did amongst them, but hardened their necks, and in their rebellion appointed a captain to return to their bondage. But you are a God ready to pardon, gracious and merciful. You are so slow to anger, Yahuwah, and you are of great kindness. And for some or the other reason, you just never forsook your children. Yeah. Still they went and made a golden calf and said, this is our God. Yet you in your manifold mercies did not forsake them in the wilderness. Your cloud in the day did not depart from them, but you led them in the way. Neither did you take your fire by night to show them the way. You gave them also a good spirit to Torah them, to instruct them. And you did not withhold your manna. You did not take away your water. For 40 years did you sustain them in the wilderness. They lacked for nothing. Their clothes didn't wax old. Their feet did not swell. Moreover, you gave them kingdoms and nations. You divided them into corners. You gave them the inheritance of the land. They possessed the land of Sihon and Heshbon and Och of Bashan. Their children also multiplied greatly as the stars of heaven, and you brought them into the land concerning that you have promised their fathers. So the children of Israel went and possessed the land, and you subdued before them all their enemies. And they took strong cities and a fat land, and possessed houses full of goods, wells that was digged, vineyards that was planted, fruit in abundance. So they were filled, they became fat. We're going to see in the next session that Eglon was fat, and he delighted himself in his greatness and looked after. They start delighting in themselves and no longer in you. That's why Psalm 1 says we need to delight in your Torah. Verse 26 of Nehemiah 9, nevertheless they became disobedient again and rebelled again and cast your law behind their backs again. Sounds a lot like Christianity today. Cast the law behind us. It's no longer for us. They slew your prophet who testified against them to turn them back because of your wrath. Therefore you delivered them into the hand of their enemies who vexed them, and in the time of their trouble, when they cried to you, you heard them from heaven. And again, according to your manifold mercies, you gave them redeemers, deliverers, and saviors, who saved them out of the hand of their enemies. But, as we see, and we are still going to see in the book of Judges, every time you gave them rest, they do evil again before your eyes. Therefore, left thou them in the hand of their enemies, so that their enemies have dominion over them. Like we saw in the previous sessions, if you are not going to keep on being faithful and endure to the end in your obedience and covenant lifestyle before Yahuwah, he will leave your enemies within your gates. Even your emotions, that is your enemy that is going to destroy you, he will leave it with you to deal with. If you don't deal with them according to his Torah, they will destroy you. Yet when they returned to you again and cried to you again, you heard again from heaven, and many times did you deliver them according to your mercies, not because we deserve it, but because of your mercies. Not because we deserve it, but because of your mercies. So this is quite amazing how we turn against God's instructions, and then we fall into the hand of the enemies. And then we cry to God. We go into our knees every time there's trouble. Like in the last 2 years, people go into their knees. But once we grow fat, once things goes well again, we get up from our knees. And now we start forgetting about God again. And then the enemy just come back into our lives. And then we go through the cycle over and over and over again. Can one generation not just stand up and love God for who he is, for the amazing God that he is, and not only turn to him like a little ATM machine? Every time I need money, I go to the ATM machine. Every time I'm in trouble, I go to God. Why can't we just love him for who he is? Verse 30, many years you forbear them and testified against them in your prophets, yet they would not listen. Aye, guys, the prophet Nehemiah actually gives us a really great summary of the problems we see here in the book of Judges. And the problem we see in the book of Judges is not a book of Judges problem. It is a human problem. It is the problem we had since the Garden of Eden, that we had all through the days of Moses and Joshua, Judges, Samuel, the Kings, the Chronicles, the book of Psalms, the book of all the prophets, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Hosea, Ezekiel, Daniel, over and over again. We have these very same problems. We have it all through the last 2,000 years. God's people have turned their backs on his law. and they do whatever is right in their own eyes, even making golden calves and saying it is God, it is Yahuwah, even bowing for Yashua. So we see the same repeating pattern in the lives of modern believers. This is not an Old Testament story. This is a new world lesson. It is an eternal world lesson for all of God's people. All of God's people, all of God's times. Nothing has changed. God is eternal. So thank you for the book of Judges, and may we go deep into the Messianic understanding, and may the people of today, the generation of today, really turn back to you with all their hearts and no longer